Hey, welcome back to my allotment on what is a really gorgeous day. It's sunny and warm, but it's not too hot, and it's not too humid either, so it's just right to be out here on the allotment and do a little bit of work. I've just been deadheading my cosmos and they're absolutely prolific this year, and I've got so many different varieties. The bees are absolutely all over them. I don't know if you can see them, but there's mostly honeybees here today, with quite a few bumblebees, and some of them are really big as well. So it's such a pleasure just to be surrounded by them as I deadhead my blooms, which does take quite a while, but it's worth it because it means that these continue to flower right until the first frost, as long as you take all those dead heads off. So I actually like to use these Milwaukee scissors. I find that my secateurs are a bit too big and clunky to get in between some of the stems, and I'm more likely to actually snip off a good head. But with these, they're really fine-tuned, so I can get in on those little nooks and crannies to snip off the dead heads. And yeah, so I'm really enjoying the cosmos so far this year. But also we've got the dahlias out in bloom, my straw flowers, they're also out now as well. And I've been harvesting quite a few crops, particularly the blackberries. That is just on a record level this year. But unfortunately, you know, we've had this drought and we're still officially in a drought situation. Throughout August, we've had a little bit of rain, a couple of really heavy downpours, but otherwise it's still been very dry and warm. And now it's just starting to cool up a little bit and be a bit more enjoyable out in the garden. But because of the heat, you know, a lot of crops aren't doing too well this year, particularly inside the Polytunnel, which we'll get to shortly. But you know, there's some areas also on the plot that look a little bit neglected because it's just been either too hot to work in. But you know, that's how things are in the garden. There's successes and failures. And gosh, that little bee is so sweet. Anyway, I can't wait to show you around the plot today because there's so many beautiful flowers and butterflies and bees out here. So let's go have a little tour and see how the plot is looking in August. As I say, it's fairly messy at the minute, so do forgive it. But here we go. Gosh, these brambles, they're growing all over. And oh look, we've got lots of hawthorn berries coming in the tree. And like most of the fruits in the hedgerows this year, it's going to be a bumper year for the hawthorn berries, which is great news for the birds because they really rely on them over the autumn and winter months. And look, we've got rose hips too in the hedgerow. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't cut my hedges until sort of midwinter, because again, the birds and the wildlife really rely on those as a source of food. But they're all through the hedge, as well as the blackberries as well. I mean, the blackberries this year have been absolutely incredible, to the point where I think I've got about 2.5 to 3 kilograms in the freezer right now, which is about as much as my freezer can cope with because it's already jam-packed and I've still got loads of things to go in there as well. So I've been making muffins and it will soon be time for crumbles as well. And I'm just so happy. I've been having them also with yogurt and a bit of muesli and a bit of local honey, and it's just so good for breakfasts or with ice cream. So good. But yeah, so many blackberries. I don't think there's been a year quite like it on the allotment, and particularly they taste so good. Like, I've never had a blackberry taste as good as it does this year, and I don't know if it's because we've had all this sunshine that's really helped to ripen them, and the lack of water that kind of, sometimes when you get really heavy rain, your fruits tend to taste a bit mushy and a bit watery, and that's because, you know, it's just diluting all that flavour. But because we haven't had any rain, the flavour is just sensational, honestly. So yeah, if you're in Europe, I'd love to know if your blackberries are doing as well as mine, and if they taste as good as I'm saying, because honestly, nice big juicy berries. See, normally you get a few sour ones, but this year they're almost all deliciously sweet. Some of you didn't realise that I already have a wildlife pond in all my pond updates. So yeah, this is my wildlife pond that's already been on my plot. for many years. It's quite overgrown with plants around it. The Belfast sink does great, the newts love it, and I just tend to leave it be. But I think this autumn I will be giving it a bit of maintenance just to check on it and get out any silty muddy stuff. There's not much new over on that side, and my sweet corn are doing really well. They're taller than me now, and I don't know if I've actually got any corns in there, some ears to harvest. It's quite tricky to see actually with all this cosmos in the way, but let's have a look, see if I've got any. Might actually be ready for harvest. As well as the cosmos, I've also got some straw flowers in here. Some of them I've been a bit late to pick, like that one's a bit too late to dry. But if you're interested in straw flowers, I do have a few separate videos on them, because they're fantastic for drying and making decorations with, and they're just so papery and really unusual, but you get such bright colours of them. Oh my gosh, look at that. We've got corn and the tassels are brown, which means they should be about ready for harvesting. But if you just peel down the ear and do the little quick test, you want to find a kernel and then pierce it with your thumb, and you'll know it's ready when it's milky. If it's watery or cream, if it's watery it's not ready yet, if it's creamy it's over baked, but if it's milky, oh my gosh, it's ready. We've got corn. All right, it's time to harvest. So this is an early variety, and it's time to see just how good the pollination is on my corn. Oh my god, look at that. We've got a full cob of corn. I know what I'm having later on as soon as I get home. Woo! Corn! Also, the name of one of my favourite bands. I should probably check to see if I've got another one really for my fiance, shouldn't I really? Another corn! He will be pleased. Oh, I'm so excited. You know, a few years ago, I've probably told you this last year as well, but for those new, corn can be really difficult to grow if you have a problem with badgers or rats. And it was the first year that I grew corn, you know, not long after I got the allotment, and they were just about to ripen and rats came along and ate the lot. And I was so disheartened, it took me a few years to actually attempt to grow them again, in fear of all that work and effort going to nothing. But for the last few years now, it's not happened. So yeah, every time I harvest my corn, I feel like it is a real success story. Just past the sweet corn, I've got this little plant. Do you know what it is? It's my lime, and the bees are very busy pollinating all those many flowers on my little tiny lime tree. I'm yet to actually harvest any limes from it other than the one it had when it was when I bought it, but it's growing really well, and I've not been very good at feeding it, which really does help. But you know, positive flowers on this one, so maybe I'll get a lime from it. The subject of fruit, well, the apple tree is still absolutely covered. It's such a good year for fruits this year. Aside from my strawberries, that was a bit of a fail, but I think the blackberries are more than making up for the lack of strawberries this year. But we've also got the start of my autumn fruiting raspberries. Although some of them have dried up on the plant because of the hot weather, and they're not very big this year. I did feed them and mulch them. It's going to take me quite a job to pick all of those apples this year. And what am I going to do with them? There's so many. But the wildlife corner is starting to look mostly green now. That's normal for this time of the year. And yeah, I mean, there's lots of berries in the hedge, and the ivy right at the back there is now covered in flowers, which is really beneficial for all those pollinators that still need a source of nectar going into the autumn months. Boring update time. I've put some new guttering in, and I've basically revamped the guttering and water collection system on my shed because it was old, it needed replacing, and you know, we're in a drought, and it's just made me realise how important it is that we collect our own rainwater and store as much of it as we can, so that we can use it in these really important periods when, you know, we shouldn't be using a hose pipe to water the plot. Although we don't have a hosepipe ban here in Nottingham, a lot of other places across the UK do. So yeah, we want to preserve our own water source. We want to preserve our water sources as much as possible. But also now, because I've got the ornamental pond with my fish, I need to keep that topped up with rainwater. So I've been around and just updated it basically, and made it a lot more practical, because originally the water butt used to be at the back of the shed, and it was hard to get to. The brambles would grow round it, and it was just not very convenient. So now, although it's not as nice looking, you know, water butts, they're ugly things, aren't they? I might try and get a green one, because that'll look a bit better and blend in better. And I still need to sort it out actually, because I can't get past it to the to the wildlife corner. But it's temporary, and also that little bug catcher is temporary. Stops the leaves from going down and that kind of thing. I know you can get a leaf collector or stopper. It's all quite temporary and rushed, because I knew we were going to get loads of heavy rain, so I was like, quick, fix the guttering. And I've also put some on the Polytunnel as well. Anyway, that's enough about that, because it's hella boring and there's so many more flowers to see. Speaking of which, my dahlias. There we've got Wizard of Oz and Natal. And this patch is doing so much better than the one that's at the top of my plot. And I think for a couple of reasons. One being this patch is much easier to water. And also the top patch had a bit of a slug problem. So they're a lot further behind, they're much smaller. And also I think because the soil is so much drier at the top, where it's at the top of the hill, they didn't get as much water. So this is the best looking bunch, but we'll see more as we go around. But honestly, look at that, aren't they impressive? Cafe au lait, I mean, what a flower, it's stunning. Which leads us down to the newest feature of all, which is my new ornamental pond, which is just for me and the fish. If you haven't seen all my updates about this, there are quite a few videos on it now. So I'm just going to actually feed the fish, because that helps to bring them to the surface, but they really are settling in quite well. And they're just so relaxing to watch. The air pumps there at the back, putting a few bubbles into the water. And they're difficult to film because of the reflections, but I've got 5 in here, and I have now named them. If you missed my previous video, these are Medaka fish, and they originate from places like Japan. And although they're a Japanese fish, my fish were actually bred and sent to me from Scotland. Which is why I asked you guys, can I have some Scottish name suggestions for my fish? So I have now named them, and I'll run through their names now. This bluey one here, he's quite a dominant one. I think he might be male. He's called Glass. And the brownie one there is called Mary, after Mary Black, the politician. And I've got 2 orange ones. One is a bit more bronzy, and that one is called Fergus. And then we've also got Freya, who is another orange one. So we've got Freya and Fergus, the orange fish. And then this one here, the silvery one, is called Sky. So we've got Glass, Mary, Freya, Fergus and Sky. Yeah, I haven't done much in the way of gardening because I spent a lot of time just coming here after work and sitting on this upturned pot and just watching the fish and feeding them because it's just so relaxing. It was also interesting to, when I put them into the tank, they ate all the mosquito larvae that were in here within a day. They're absolutely gone, so you know there's no mosquitoes that are going to be hatching from this anymore because they're going to be controlling that for me. And it actually got to the point where I felt a bit sorry for them because they weren't able to get any more mosquito larvae because they'd eaten them all. So I've actually got a bucket that's just by my feet where a bit of shallow water's obviously fallen from the rain and the mosquitoes came, lay their eggs, and I've been catching the mosquito larvae to then feed my fish. How sad is that? Although it's for the benefit of me, it looks like the wildlife are still enjoying it, and there's a bee there that's just having a drink from the damp moss that's growing on my Sarracenia rock garden. Some people worried about things like herons and cats getting my fish. Well, we don't get herons around here because we're actually in the city centre, and I've never seen a heron on the allotment. Oh, there's Mary and Fergus. And cats, well, because it's on a raised tank, I don't think a cat is going to be able to see them from the level that a cat would be, and I don't think it'd be able to sit there. I mean, it might be able to, and perch to catch them, so I don't think the cats would know that they're in here, to be honest. So yeah, the pond's doing really well, and as are the fish. I've got a lot of rubbish to tidy up, and I can't wait for the autumn months to come so that I can have a really good tidy. Over there I've just got some plants that I haven't even got around to planting, you know, like the penstemons. It was so dry, and it's just going to be better if I do these in the autumn months. And there's a few plants here that I bought cheap, reduced, such as this type of grass and some lupins and some other bits. That is my indoor banana that I've brought outside. It had a bit of a problem with thrips at home, so I'm hoping that they might get predated if I keep it out here for a little while longer until it gets too cold to keep it here. My carrots are underneath this little tunnel and they're doing really well. I've put this over to protect them from carrot root fly, and I do have some nematodes that I'm about to apply. I'm so excited because I missed out on carrots last year because after I sowed the seeds I got COVID, and then I couldn't keep them damp enough to grow when it was so hot, and as a result I didn't get any carrots. But look at all these flowers. I've got a mishmash of all sorts going on in here. So this is Dahlia, Zundert Mystery Fox, which is one of my favourites. I love that sort of orangey tone. And what else have we got? Waltzing Matilda. And I don't recognise this one. What is that? Don't recognise that one. And behind there is my courgette, which is covered in mildew because of the warm, dry weather. I've been harvesting quite a lot of courgettes from it, and I think, let me just have a look over there. Look how white they are. It's not great, but there's quite a big marrow-sized, look at that, that's huge, that got missed somehow. And there's some smaller ones down there just growing, so need to cut that one off, else I won't be getting any more, that's for sure. Yeah, it's quite tricky to actually navigate my paths right now because of all the flowers. Specifically this one. The grass paths are doing really well, by the way. I didn't actually cut them at all during the drought, so they're quite long, but it meant they stayed lush and quite green. Hello thistles. The ants, well, I'll do a big update on that soon, but they're definitely still here, but they're giving me much less grief. And I love my grass paths now, and it's definitely working for me. But yes, I can't get up this one because the cosmos taking over. But what's happened is my potatoes that grow in these pots have flopped, which meant they pushed the cosmos over, even though I staked them, and that's how it's happened. But yeah, a lot of the potatoes I haven't harvested yet, particularly the main crops, a bit early still. But as for the shallots, I have been harvesting them, and they're great. They're a good size despite the drought. Not too sure how the main crops will do because yeah, it's all about the water, and these pots dry out so quickly, and I kind of gave up. The reason for the netting, by the way, was just to stop any rats from digging in, because I've had that problem before where they actually harvest the potatoes for me. So that's what that's there for. I've got lots of weeds just sort of strewn everywhere, as well as pots and things. I've got a lot of tidying up to do, which I'm quite looking forward to now it's got cooler. But in here I've got lots of beetroot and some young parsnips, which I hope will reach maturity. And my beans, gosh, these Balotti beans have ripened so quickly. Look at that. That colour is incredible. But I didn't realise that they've already started to dry. That's crazy. And so early, honestly. So yeah, I've got lots of beans, which is going to be good. Not as many as I'd perhaps hoped I'd get, but again, the drought. There's been a lot of challenges this year. Oh, a cinnabar caterpillar moth, look. Almost trod on this little guy. That's the cinnabar caterpillar that turns into an amazing red moth. They love to eat ragworts, which is a weed, but I let it grow just for them. Okay, it's time to get in the polytunnel, but I'm going to have to take the long way round because I can't get there this way. Ooh, look, the sweet peas didn't last long. Could not keep up with the deadheading as usual. But we've got lots of seeds that I can perhaps be saving for next year. Nice pods there. And also they're done well considering the drought. You know, these guys love water and don't like hot, dry roots. So it was one of the main ones that I watered. But oh gosh, I forgot to even mention this beast. My squash mountain has really worked, and the vines are going all over it. Oh look, there's even a little baby squash on that one. And they've made such a feature. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, guys, I've not actually looked at all the fruits on here. So that's my honey boat squash. And there's another pair down there, look, like twins. A honey boat. And what else is on here? Oh, that one there is, excuse me, sorry, dumpling squash. And further down I've got quite a few at cheeky curry, and they're ready for harvesting. I think I can see a honey bear down there as well. Oh my gosh, I might actually harvest one of these now. Growing squash vertically is such a fun way of growing them. I've also got lots of lettuce down here that's gone to seed. But oh my gosh, these leaves are so prickly. Let's try not to spike myself. How about that? It's great to grow an early squash variety like this, so you don't have to wait until, you know, right into the autumn months to harvest them. And this one tastes so sweet and delicious. I love it roasted. And this is going to be a great dinner. I've got sweet corn, I've got a cheeky curry squash. Let's see if I've got any tomatoes and chilies in the tunnel. At the top of the plot here you can see my raised sort of rockery beds, where I usually have such a massive dahlia blooms. They're not looking that great. Look how small and spindly they are. These would normally be so bushy. That one there isn't looking very healthy. Look at all that yellowing. Looks like it needs some nutrients. It looks like it's got a bit of a deficiency going on there. So yeah, not such a great success story with these dahlias, but I mean, the Erigeron, Caravanskianus, or the Mexican fleabane, always, I mean, it's always such a reliable flower. Comes back bigger and stronger every year. My polytunnel actually already has this little flap along the side, and I've just put some guttering in that, which runs into this water butt. And a lot of people ask where this tunnel was from. It was from Feel Good UK quite a few years ago. They don't do this size anymore, which is 3 by 2 meters, but it's done me very well. The cover does need replacing, but now it's been discontinued. I'm going to have to look at somebody else to get the cover. But out here I've got a very dangerous plant, the ricinus plant, and it's these flowers here and the seed pods that are most toxic if you eat them. So I do actually need to trim them off so that the seed pods don't drop anywhere and nothing eats them. But look at that leaf, it's incredible. I wish I'd taken better care of these and potted them up sooner, because they're quite leggy and they could have been really impressive big bushy plants if I'd potted them up and looked after them a bit better. But it's my first time growing them and it's just great to have something so ornamental. But inside the tunnel, oh, it looks a bit sad, doesn't it? The tomatoes, what's happened? I mean, they've just been so tricky to keep hydrated enough, for one thing. And I don't know if it's the heat that stunted the growth or the soil, but I mean, these plants, I'd expect all of them to be reaching that top bar by the end of July. And you know, sort of second week of August is when I pinch out the tips to stop them from climbing all the way up here, which is what they often do. But they just haven't this year, and I don't know if it's from the heat that's stunted their growth. You can see there's wilting, and they've always looked a little bit wilty. You know, I'm not strict on my watering, and I like to grow plants hard so they don't rely on water, you know, every day or every other day. But I mean, I've got fruits, they're just not very happy plants. Oh, but yes, and they've been so slow to ripen as well. But look, we've got some down here that I'll be taking home later today. But yeah, it's not too happy on the tomato front, unfortunately. And it's also not great for the cucumbers. They produced some really good cucumbers, but they just didn't last long in the heat, and they've got, I don't know if they got mildew, but they just crispened up so quickly and dropped a load of leaves that I've since cleaned up. But oh, that's a funny shaped one due to the watering. But yeah, they've just been, I think, so dry and tricky to look after. But I mean, at least we haven't had blight yet, because it's just been so dry. The chilies aren't looking too bad. I think they're looking a bit better than they were. They have lost a lot of leaves and they didn't get off to a great start, but I've got lots of fruits coming and I've harvested some as well. I think that's my yellow Scotch bonnet and loads of this one. And that's like a bit like a jalapeno, but it gets this corking around the side. But one of the issues I've had is that the fruits are drying and going crinkly because of the heat and the stress of that. But we've got some really good Sugar Rush stripy chilies. That's what these are. Sugar Rush peach stripy. Really pretty. Almost looks like candy canes. And I've got some sweet peppers as well that are ready for picking. But not as many as I'd hoped in here. Yeah, and the plants aren't looking too healthy. And the variety is called Lacer sweet pepper. But yeah, lots of nice peachy ones this year. Yeah, a fair bit of blossom end rot on some of these tomatoes, which is a shame. My ghost chilies are a little bit dry, they're also wilting, but we do have lots of flower buds on the way, and we're going to get lots of chilies from this later on in the season. Because it's a super hot, they won't be really, you know, I won't be harvesting them till sort of September, October time, maybe even into November if the warm weather stays with us. But yeah, I've just not had as much time to get to the plot after work, and keeping up with the watering has just been a bit of a struggle. Right at the top of my plot is my medlar, And somebody asked me recently how it's doing. And it's doing better than last year. Last year it got rust, and this year it's looking okay, and we've got a few medlar fruits on the way. So there we are, there's the plots at the end of August in 2022. Sun's just coming out again. Oh look, tripod in shot. Never mind, we're going with it. I'm not going all the way down there to move it. I've now got so many honesty seeds to peel to reveal that really pretty white seed head and use it in dried decorations. It's going to look so nice. But that's about all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me here. It's been a real pleasure to have you here and show you around whilst we've got so many flowers in bloom. I was wondering though if you might be able to do me a really little favour, because I'm so close to hitting 100,000 subscribers, which is ridiculous to think that that many of you tune in to watch my videos. But I need your help to get there, because I'm only about 5,000 away, which isn't that many in comparison. So if you could just check, if you've not already subscribed, you know, do the thing. I never really ask this of you, ever. But if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing, because I would really love to reach that milestone by the end of the year. But aside from that, I'm going to pick that flower because it looks amazing. The dahlias, I mean, they're absolutely incredible. You know what, why not? Let's hope there's not an earwig in there. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Do let me know in the comments, as always, you know, what's happening in your neck of the woods, what's growing well, how's the garden doing. I'm going to head home now with my little harvest, but I'll see you guys real soon. So thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye bye.